Good morning, everybody. My name is Anthony Camilleri, and I am a professional trainer of quality assurance reviewers for a number of agencies around Europe. I am a senior partner at the Knowledge Innovation Centre, and I also work with the International Standards Organization on developing a future standard on educational organization management systems, which will be known as ISO 21001. For today's presentation, Olga and the other members of the SCORE team have asked me to answer two basic questions. Firstly, what training quality assurance processes do I use in my own organization? And secondly, what economic or efficient checks do you think SCORE should invest in? Since per se I am not a training organization, I will be modifying the first question a little bit to present the quality approaches I usually recommend to QA agencies I work with. Quality is not a monodimensional concept, and if you were to ask 10 different people for their definition of quality, you probably would get 10 different answers, which makes discussing quality as a concept rather challenging. However, for the presentation today, I would like to consider three aspects or definitions of this term quality. First and foremost, a quality process can be thought of as a process that is particularly fit for purpose, a process that does exactly what it is designed to do. A second way of looking at quality is a process that continually improves. So whatever your starting point, if you are to visit a few days or a few weeks later, you will always find the process in a better state than when you first found it. The third vision of quality is a process that leads to high levels of customer satisfaction. So quality isn't measured objectively, as in fitness for purpose, but rather subjectively in terms of the opinions of the customer. Within educational organizations, we can also think of quality in terms of suitability to meet requirements. Within any educational organization or any training service provider, requirements are set by three different types of stakeholders. Firstly, by the students who are taking the course. Secondly, by enterprises or by the world of work that is there to benefit from the course. And thirdly, society in general who has an interest in having well-trained students, well-trained employees. Usually society is represented by government in terms of setting requirements. A well-functioning institution will ensure that its policies reflect the requirements set by the stakeholders and that its activities implement that mission. The role of internal quality assurance is to support continual improvement and to ensure that these two processes, in terms of building of policies and building of activities, actually reflect the requirements of the stakeholders. The role of external quality assurance is simply enough to check that the internal quality assurance procedures work the way they should, and secondly, to verify that the requirements of the stakeholders are being met so as to give them adequate trust in that system. Amongst the many methods for quality, three methods which are in use by the SCORE program are internal quality controls to assure the quality of the materials in courses, customer satisfaction surveys to evaluate the results of courses and evaluate the satisfaction of the students that go through the courses, and finally, impact audit and assessment, which essentially is there to measure the long-term effects of the courses and to give data to the funders on the overall effectiveness of the programs. Therefore, in line with the questions that were posed to me, I'd like to give a few suggestions, a little bit of food for thought to start some discussion for optimizing monitoring capabilities and enabling continual improvement in the SCORE program. Measuring quality for the SCORE program begins with understanding the idea of fitness for purpose for this program. And in this case, we can say that any process that is of high quality is one that fits the objective of the program. In other words, that of improving productivity, sustainability, and job quality in SMEs. What we need to look at now is how to operationalize this concept in the various quality tools. Thus, my first suggestion is that of adopting continuous improvement techniques. The idea here is to identify possible improvements, usually at the end of each course, either through the questionnaires or through workshops held with the participants. Based on querying the customers, you should be able to come up with some ideas for improvements and be able to implement those improvements in the next course. As you are implementing them in the next course, you test the effectiveness of the various techniques used. Testing effectiveness is done through the same evaluation tools, through questionnaires, through interviews, and so on and so forth. And based on the results of those tests, you have two options. Either to mainstream those changes, in other words, adopt them into the main course, or to abandon them if they are found not to be as effective as hoped. This can also be integrated with a technique from software testing, which is known as A/B testing. Essentially, what this means is grouping your students into two groups. One group, which will follow the old course without the improvements, and a second group that follow the course with the improvements, and comparing the effectiveness data between the two groups. This is a very powerful technique, and adopting this idea of identifying improvements, testing them, and mainstreaming or abandoning them can help you ensure that each round of the course will always be better than the previous one. This is also linked to what's called PDCA theory, plan, do, check, act cycles, where we are ensuring that not only do we plan the course, not only do we do the course, but we have a technique to it that check the results and, most importantly, to act on the feedback to complete the loop and complete the cycle. The second recommendation or suggestion is linked to customer satisfaction surveys. What you can see on the screen is an extract from the end of course survey which you currently use and which you currently find in the SCORE implementation guide. As you can see, it asks, what is your overall rating of the workshop? How do you rate the trainers? How do you rate the training materials? This gives you very good comparable data, but it does raise the question, what are the criteria for rating quality? What makes for a very poor trainer or a very good trainer? What makes for a very poor workshop or a very good workshop? Of these, the only objectively sourced question is number 5. Are you going to implement in your enterprise what you learned? So therefore, I'd like to give some ideas for some alternative questions for discussion, linked to the 3 ideas of quality we've already discussed. In terms of determining if the course indeed was fit for purpose, you can ask participants, will this training make you more efficient at work? Has the training make you think of the corporate responsibility of your company? Will the training increase your job quality? In terms of questions that would feed into an idea of quality as continual improvement, you might ask, what would you improve or change? What didn't you understand? What was least useful or what was most useful? And finally, in terms of customer satisfaction, rather than just asking, are you happy? You can ask the ultimate question in this area, which is, would you recommend this training to others? Since if a person is willing to put their name behind the training, you can ensure that they have very, very high levels of satisfaction. Also linked to customer satisfaction surveys, it is highly recommended to introduce a complaints procedure that is independent from the customer satisfaction surveys. Complaints procedures can give you very important information. First of all, they allow you to identify criticalities in your processes. In short, what is going wrong? And if you have an early detection system to understand what is going wrong, it allows you to stop those errors before they cause any harm. Secondly, it improves customer satisfaction, since a customer who complains and has that complaint resolved is a happy customer. Thirdly, complaints procedures serve as a reverse satisfaction indicator. In short, the fewer complaints, the happier people are with the course. And finally, it is a pipeline for the generation of ideas. And ideas for improvement are very, very valuable for continuous improvement. And letting customers suggest ideas, suggest resolutions to problems is one of the good and free ways of generating those ideas. The third idea I would like you to consider is measuring impact in terms of profit. Now, in corporate social responsibility, we talk about the triple bottom line, or in other words, looking at profit in terms of financial profit, in terms of social profit, in terms of environmental profit or gains. And here you have some ideas of indicators you could use. In the economic area, it's the simplest. You can just see if the training has contributed to growth, to revenue, and other financial indicators. From a social perspective, you can ask, has the training contributed to employee welfare? From an environmental perspective, you can ask, has the training contributed to the sustainability indicators set by the company? Now, all of these could be gained by interviewing companies and asking them to give responses based on certain indicators, but this might be a little too difficult, a little too much work for the companies. Another idea might be to actually use the company's own reports to see if the training has any value to them. Most companies do publish annual reports, and it's becoming more and more common to publish corporate social responsibility reports, where you actually report your results against the triple bottom line. It would be very interesting to look at these reports and see if the companies mention that the training is of any value to them and mention them as part of their overall corporate social responsibility policy. Of course, to get any meaningful data out of such an indicator, you would probably need to suggest to the companies initially that it might be a good idea to include the results of the training in these reports, and then just collect the reports as a method of impact evaluation. Finally, in terms of impact audit, two very simple indicators which can help you gauge quality through demand for services. First of all, you can simply look at the requests for repeat trainings. If a client is ordering a training again, they are obviously a happy client. Secondly, when doing trainings for new clients, you can ask the source of the business. If that business is coming from referrals, again, it is an indicator of very happy clients. If you can see a growth curve of more requests for repeat trainings and more referrals, you are obviously on the right track. That's all the time I have for this short presentation, but I would like to leave you with one thought. Quality is not merely a means of evaluation. It is not merely a way to check if you're making mistakes. It's not merely a way to congratulate yourself if you do well. Rather, quality is a culture. And quality is a system that helps you detect not just errors, but opportunities. And a well-functioning quality system will help you find the golden idea which will take you forward from the hundreds and thousands of ideas, of opinions that you get every day. And I always like to show this diagram. Imagine if early man didn't have time to try out the wheel. We would be living in a very different world today. Thank you for attention. I would be glad to answer any of your questions, either directly through the Skype link or in the comments underneath this YouTube video. Goodbye.